And we're back.
Welcome back to Beyond the Signs podcast.
I'm your co-host, Omar Hamouda.
And I'm your fellow co-host, Kiera Lee.
And today, I actually do know the topic that we're going to talk about.
Start us off.
I'm very excited to actually say it. So, hunger versus experience. Which one shows the most potential? Now, when we were talking about trying to figure out a topic for today's episode, the reason why I brought this up, and it might be confusing at first, but what I mean about that is someone who has experience doing a job versus someone who hasn't done the job but is eager to learn, right? Mm-hmm. So the term hungry in this case means the eagerness to actually learn. And what's it called? The perfect analogy for this, it would be like when you're starting a job for the first time and you're like, you don't know what you're getting yourself into, but it's exciting. It's in a field that you know it, but at the same time you don't know what you're expecting, so you want to learn it, versus someone who's been an experienced person into it, and then they're like just in it because one, either the money's good or the fact that they just they know what they're doing. So
they know what they're doing. They're comfortable.
Exactly.
And that's the difference. When you're passionate about something, it's not, you're always going to be, number one, hungry, and two, you're always going to be eager to improve, because somebody who truly values that aspect of it knows that there's always room for improvement, there's always room for growth. And that's why I say this isn't everybody with experience, but some people with experience, like you had mentioned in our previous episode where we had talked about this topic briefly, when you have so much experience, it gets to the point where some people you'll find, you come on a project and somebody else is working on that project who has a ton of experience. Number one, like you said, they might not be as excited about the project or enthused or passionate or, putting their all into it. And two, they might feel like they have some sort of entitlement to be there. Right. And that's, that's never what you want. That's never the point that you want to get to with it. You always want to stay hungry. You always want to stay open to learning and growing. And that's why I think the hungriest people in the games are going to get the most gigs in the end, and are going to create the best long-lasting connections and move up in the space, because people see that and people will take a chance on someone who's hungry, versus somebody who has been through it, for years and years, and this is just another gig for them.
And what's interesting too is that hungry doesn't necessarily only apply to those who have started, but also those who have experience and are passionate about what they do. So for example, this is a documentary that I watched maybe 2 days ago about the CEO of Starbucks, on how he got started on Starbucks. It's funny because he wasn't the one who found it, but there were 3 founders of Starbucks, and all they wanted to do was be a roastery. They don't want to sell coffee or anything like that back in 1982, right? It wasn't until the 4th guy came in, and I forget his name, but people could search it up. He went to Italy and experienced the whole coffee lifestyle and the sort of the environment.
Coffee culture.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And wanted to bring that in America, right? They didn't want that because they're doing such a good job just selling coffee as a roastery. They don't need that, right? So he actually started his own company, right? And 3 years later, the 3 founders came up to him and asked if he wanted to buy them out, because he's doing such a good job with it that he was like, you know what? I love Starbucks. I love the name of it. Let's get started with it. So he bought them out and ended up doing so much more.
And now
with
it's Starbucks. Yeah.
And now it's Starbucks, and literally it's become to a point because he was hungry.
Mm-hmm.
He was so hungry to the point where literally when he was about to buy them out, another investor that he was trying to collab with ended up trying to come out of the deal. And if it wasn't for Bill Gates Sr., he wouldn't have ended up getting it, because he reminded him what he was in it for, and he became even more hungry.
Right.
So now Starbucks isn't even and I know I'm going off topic, but this explains the whole the
It's on
hungry
topic.
factor
Yes.
of it is that Starbucks isn't even like a coffee industry anymore.
Yeah.
People say right now it's a real estate industry now because every single place that you go has a Starbucks in it, and
Totally.
a lot of people don't like that because it's like, oh, it's gentrifying the area. But in fact, I'm looking at it as in like improving, like bringing the housing market even at a higher value because there's a Starbucks right there and then. So
I think, and that's another example of the fact that like when you're hungry, it makes you take risks. You're more likely to take a risk because you believe in what you're doing. You're passionate about what you're doing. You can't see yourself doing anything else, and you're hungry for it. You want that, to be able to succeed, and you want to be able to do whatever it takes to get to that point. And that's, I feel like that's so much more valuable than just having all the experience in the world. You could have all the experience in the world, but if you're not passionate about it anymore, or it seems a little more like mundane or easy, or at this point you're comfortable and you don't want to go any further out of your comfort zone and do any other projects that might make you uncomfortable. Like, you've seen it all, you've done it all. Like, where do you go from there if you're not still hungry?
right. And it's actually funny because like we can bring it up to our own examples where like literally before we even recorded this episode, you were talking about like how you enjoy editing, because I was suggesting like, why not we hire out an editor to edit our episodes? Like, no, but I love doing it because it's like, what's it called, Lightroom in and out, that start getting boring for you. So like using a new program, kind of like Premiere Pro or whatever editing software anyone uses that nowadays, it's getting more enjoyable. And like by you doing the process, yes, it's tedious, but at the same time, like you enjoy it because it's something new.
Right. And Lightroom, it's not, I wouldn't necessarily say that, I'll retract that statement a little bit. I wouldn't necessarily say it's boring because I'm still very passionate about it, but it has become easy. So in that way, it's comfortable now, and I'm comfortable with it. And I'm comfortable with it to the point to where, it's still very satisfying, obviously, to edit photos. I mean, I love it. That's my passion. That's my career. That's what I want to do for the rest of my life. But yeah, I mean, when you've been working on the same exact program that at this point inside and out for years, yeah, it gets to the point where you're like, okay, where do I go from here? And I've never been one to be super savvy at editing videos. And, I've worked on iMovie in the past. I've worked on Final Cut Pro even. But transferring to Premiere Pro was a huge step for me. And it was out of my comfort zone. But I was really eager and hungry and passionate to learn how to edit these videos, because prior to a couple episodes ago, Omar was editing every single podcast video of ours. And like, if y'all don't know how busy this man is extremely busy. And he is never in one place for long. And me personally, I work remotely. I work from home. I work off my computer. I do travel to do shoots and things like that. But for the most part, I do have more free time. And I'm also a night owl. I stay up late. Like, I really wanted to learn how to do this, to have that skill to be like, okay, like I'm advancing. You know what I mean? Like, I'm growing, I'm evolving, I'm learning new skills. I'm adding to my repertoire of things I can do. Knowing how to do this might get me a gig in the future.
Absolutely.
Whereas I wouldn't get that gig if I didn't know.
And what's interesting too is like you can tell the difference between like who edited what. And it's funny because like I have the experience, right?
Right.
But you can tell like, because I know how to do it, like it's just very like,
I feel like
so corporate wise.
Right. I feel like I was able to look at it with fresh eyes.
Right. And that's actually an interesting word that you said, or like the phrase that you said, because in architecture back in school, we would always say that the freshest eyes on a project is probably the best eyes to have, because you're in the project for so long that like when you're actually like looking through it onto like the drawings for so long, and like keep in mind, these aren't like 1 or 2 pages or even 10 pages. These are like around 200 to 800 pages of like literally design work. And like it's just repetitive. So like someone who like has been on the project for a couple months or even a couple years will see as the drawing as perfect as it can be. The new guy, or like even like one who's experienced and one who isn't experienced,
right,
will see the mistakes on it. And it's funny when you see these old heads who like will try to argue with you and tell you, oh no, the drawings are fine, right? But you can clearly see that there's something wrong with it. And yeah, it just comes back to like looking at like it with a different perspective of things, and that shows like who is hungrier in the job. And it like the reason why I think like when I tried to pitch the idea of the episode of hungry versus experience, it's not necessarily saying that you can't be experienced being hungry,
right?
People put hungry and experience in a different category that makes it seem like that they're two different things. And like I'm saying they are, but in retrospect they aren't.
Yeah, a lot of people, you know, with experience are still really dope, you know, creators, and are still really able to be, you know, able to perform at a higher level and things like that on certain projects. But yeah, I mean, I feel like having that extra hunger when you don't have the experience, when you're new to the game, when you're trying to get somebody to take a chance on you and get somebody to hire you for something, even though, you know, this may be your first or second time doing that specific type of gig. Like, that's when I feel like you feel the need to prove yourself even more. And in turn, you're going to be more meticulous with the outcome, and you're going to create better results.
Right.
Ultimately.
And I think like also we talk about like what it is, but I feel like how you identify where you stand is actually really important as well. So for example, like I can be experienced in one thing, but how do I know if I'm hungry in it and if I'm not? And one of the examples I see that I can catch myself doing is that if a client hits me up for specific work that I know and they ask me, oh, let me see, like, are you sure you can do it? And I'm like, yeah, I can do it. Like, that's when I know like I'm messing up, right? So what I'll do is like I'll show them examples. I'll tell them like, hey, like let me do like an example work for you. That's how I know I'm hungry for it, you know? And like necessarily like also too, like I also want to get rid of the negative connotation of like hungry doesn't necessarily mean desperate.
No, it doesn't. And it doesn't mean that you're it doesn't mean that you're like taking anything that comes to you and you're like, yeah.
But totally. That's also the other thing I wanted to mention is that like a lot of people think that like it's bad to show that you're hungry because it makes you seem desperate or not. It's like, well, how do I know if like, because like here's the thing, like I like when it comes out to someone trying to get a videographer or photographer, or even when I'm trying to find like my own like types of people to hire out, right? The ones who like tell me, yeah, I can do it. They're not as convincing as the guy who goes like, yeah, we can do it. Let me show you what we can do. Let me show you the pamphlets. Let me show you examples. I'm like, all right, I know this guy like wants the job and like has the experience, or maybe doesn't even have the experience and wants to bargain out with me. I'll give them a chance, because like that to me is more important than the guy who says, yeah, we can do it, no worries. Right?
And I think that can come and go, because I've definitely had points where I've been in a creative sort of like lull or a creative rut where every shoot that I'm doing is just kind of like, yeah, I can do that. Let's meet here and let's figure it out. When I started to get back into my groove and start to feel really passionate and excited about it again, every time someone would hit me up, I'd immediately start creating a mood board for that shoot. I'd send them the mood board, ask them how that looks, plan out a location, book a studio space if needed. Like, it was much more intentional. And like we've talked about in our episode of spontaneous versus planned projects, like sometimes the spontaneous projects can turn out amazing as well. But when you're being hired for a gig, you want to show that person that you care and that you're ready and that you're passionate and you're excited and you want to put thought into this. And it's not just a simple like, yeah, I can do that, let's do it. You know, it's like let me show you what we can do and let me show you what this might look like. How does that sound to you? It's a collaborative effort. You know what I mean? It's not just a 1-2, here we go. And relating that to something else that I saw Russ post actually recently on TikTok. He posted an entire video talking about this, talking about how he actually extremely values hunger over experience. When he looks for photographers or videographers to shoot a show of his or work with him in any capacity, come on tour, whatever it may be, he actually looks for the person that doesn't have the most experience but is super hungry and wants to put in the work to make, the outcome the best it can possibly be. And he has brought so many people, given so many people and creatives their start by taking chances on them, even if they don't have experience, even if they haven't been in the industry for that long, and they don't have a full resume. Like, he looks for that, and he appreciates that because he was once that same person. And to be honest, all of us were once like hungry creatives without experience, you know what I mean?
Right. But now the difference is that we're experienced and still hungry. Exactly, which there's room for that as well, but it all depends on the individual. No, I think it's great to have like other people who like see the industry and know that like hungry doesn't necessarily mean desperate, and that's like a really like nice, like, and it shows you the human side of like people too, because like,
yeah, like that was coming from somebody that was coming from Russ, you know what I mean? Like he's kind of at the top of his game right now. He is experienced. He's been in the game for like 10 years or something crazy like that.
Was it 10 years? I always thought it was like
maybe
5 years.
Maybe a little bit less. No, he's been in the game for a long time.
Oh, okay.
But and that, yeah, someone who's at the top of his game right now, performing sold out arenas for tens of thousands of people. He's the person saying, I value hunger over experience when I look for other creatives to work with. And that says a lot.
Not bad. That's why, like, I feel like for me, like, when it comes to like seeing, like, hearing out people, when it comes to like whatever gigs or whatever like business ventures they have, I always listen out to the fullest, because of the fact, like, you never know, like, if it could be something that you're interested in and you can see more growth and potential in it. So that's why, like, when people have any ideas, they'll come up to me because they're like, they know that I'm hungry for the next thing, or like that I have ideas to kind of improve it and stuff like that. Like,
every time I talk to you, you have a new business venture that you're starting. You have a new idea for a company. You were just pitching an idea to me prior for something that you're beta testing. Like, it's every single time I see you, it's something different. And I think that speaks to the hunger that you have, because you've been around the ringer, you know what I mean? You've been there, done that. But at the same time, you're still looking for the next thing, and you're still eager to grow and evolve.
Right. And it's actually really funny too, because like I had a meeting yesterday with one of my good friends who like literally is beta testing one of his new like product that he's trying to get involved in. I told him, like, hey, listen, like, you be my first client, I'll be your first client.
There we go.
Let's make this work. And like literally, like, I was just pitching him different ideas. I'm like, oh, how you can improve, like, how, like, because I can't say the product, but like I can say that it definitely has a lot to do with cameras, and how like a lot of it like kind of like reads properly. So he was going to test with the GoPro. I told him, don't test with the GoPro because, one, the battery life sucks on it. Two, like, you're not going to actually get viable information from it. Why don't you use sort of like an Instacam? Instacams are usually, one, now they make it waterproof. Two, it's long lasting than GoPro, because like honestly, like, I love looking at, like, this is where my hunger comes to, like, knowledge when it comes to learning about different companies. So when you look at GoPro at their peak was between the years, surprisingly, from 2010 until 2013. They were at their peak around there.
I believe that.
After that,
I actually believe that, because that was the time where everybody wanted a GoPro. That's when I was begging for a GoPro as a kid.
Yeah, the CEO of GoPro actually like was the main reason why GoPro went down. And afterwards, like, it also comes to show, it's like when the main person isn't as hungry as they are, but their experience, like, the products ends up becoming very shitty afterwards. Because when GoPro were dropping their new cameras every 2 or 3 years, now they're in the market of like pumping it every year.
Yeah.
Right. But like,
hey, you could say the same thing about Apple when Steve Jobs died.
Right. They're pumping it out. But the difference is that one, the company ended up going in a different direction.
Right.
Two,
right.
It's the CEO who actually made it.
Yeah. This was, right.
Yeah, so.
And, you know, in a totally separate regard, I know that this is different from what you were just talking about, but to circle back to it, I feel like that's why we started this podcast, was to, and I think we said this in one of our first episodes, my objective, I really just wanted to have conversations with my friends. I wanted to have a conversation with you because you're one of my best friends, and we'd have these conversations all the time off camera. And I wanted to bring, like, I want to bring our other friends on here and have, like, who cares if they, you know, I believe in all of the guests and the friends and the creatives that we have on this podcast, whether they have made it already or not. Like, I think that regardless of their experience timeline, of their resume, of the amount of projects that they've worked on, I appreciate them as a creative. You know, I feel like all the people that we are friends with in this industry are super hungry. They are super passionate about what they do, and that matters. And instead of trying to get, like, you know, big guests that are already doing it, like, I really wanted to hone in on, like, supporting our friends and our people and the people that might not have as much experience or might not be as, you know, notable or big in the game, who are just super hungry and passionate about what they do, and they do it every day, you know what I mean? And that's what they want to do for the rest of their lives.
Absolutely. And that segues perfectly with the next thing, is that we'll be able to get more guests and be able to interview them, even get their own opinion, like their own side of the story that they're not able to say or be able to share because they don't have that platform, and this is that platform. Right.
So if they can't get to the level where they can be on a bigger podcast or anything, like, we're that place to come to, no matter what level you're at, like, just to talk about how much we love being a creative and how much we love what we do.
Right.
And why we do what we do, you know.
So for all you out there, come to us. We'll listen to you. We'll interview.
Yeah, comment down below if you want to be a guest.
Absolutely.
That'd be so sick.
We'll let it happen. We'll make it happen, right? Mm-hmm. You know what's really funny about this episode today, too?
What?
I didn't say the word that I usually say.
What's the word? Absolutely?
Yep.
Yeah, I actually said it at the beginning, and I noticed you didn't say it.
Because I held my
you
tongue.
Say
I tried
it usually
to
like 10 times per episode.
I should. You know what I should do? I should get a mug or like the merch that just says absolutely. Absolutely.
One of the next episodes you see of us will just be Omar wearing a shirt that says absolutely across his chest.
And funny thing is, it will actually happen. It's going to happen.
I know.
It's going to happen.
Oh, I know it is.
All right. But with that being said, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And if you would like to follow us on any social media, all of it is up here, listed from Instagram, Twitter, and the Facebook. And also, if you would like to subscribe, like the video, and hit the bell notification so you know when we do post. But with that being said, I think that's the end of the episode.
Yeah, that was a really good conversation.
Absolutely. No, this was one of those like really nice golden one that I
love. I love talking about this shit. Like, this is what we do, you know?
Absolutely. So. And with that being said, thank you, and we'll see you all next time.
See you later.
Bye-bye for now.
Toodaloo.